Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Oh, Ometeorla, welcome. This is Jerry Tello with the Healing Generations podcast and Healing Generations Institute, and really want to take the opportunity today to welcome you and, to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time to spend with us in our reflection, in our thinking, in our prayer, in this ceremony. This is something that our ancestors taught us, that we must take time. We must take a break. We must create some kind of pause for reflection, for thinking, for prayer, for analyzing, assessing where we're at. And so, in doing that, I want to begin just inviting all of you just to ground yourself. And we do that with a breath. And if you just take a deep breath in and recognize the sacredness of that breath, and recognize that breath that you breathe is the very same genetic breath of your ancestors, of those people that have come before you and all their experiences, the blessing experiences, the medicine experiences, and also the struggles and the trauma that they carry as well. And as you breathe today, we want to acknowledge where you're at, where I'm at. I'm on the Tangva Gabrielino land. I want to acknowledge the ancestors there, the original people of this land, and really make a commitment to them that we will continue to live their legacy of peace and healing and interconnection with the land and all our relations that way. And as you do that and take another breath, I want you to just think about your family, your family, your blood-related family, your love-related family, those that you call family, those that people call you family. And just think about them. Send a prayer out, send a wish out. Those that are struggling, we send good energy to them that way. And as we do that, we take another breath for our communities. The barrios, the neighborhoods, the communities, the beloved community that you belong to, whoever they are, whatever they are, wherever they are. We embrace them that way. We look at them that way as sacred. We recognize that we're all interconnected, and when we get to that place where we can have that interconnected respect and dignity and love and trust, then we will be in a sense of peace and harmony. So we want to bring them to mind because we know that many of us are struggling right now, and some of our community is as well, the world, the whole universe right now is in transition. So we want to bring all that to mind and acknowledge it, as just where we're at right now. And as you do that, then let's just take a breath for yourself, in the sense of self-love, in the sense of self-reflection, of self-acknowledgement. Who are you today and where are you at today? And what do you need? What do you need today? And let's ask the universe, ask your ancestors, ask the spirits in what we guide today, that maybe we can bring you just a little bit of medicine, a little bit of teaching, a little bit of breath, a little bit of hope, some sense of connecting with what you need today as we go on today. So just want to thank you all for joining us again, and invite you just to take some time here just to journey with us today. So happy today because I have with us someone that I consider family, that I consider kin, that I consider just a relative that brings so much. When I think of Kevin Fong, I think of someone on a journey of wonder, someone on a journey of medicine. I think of him swimming in the ocean. I think of him dancing, his traditional hula. I think of him and embracing people and bringing people in circle. I think of him as, one of the strongest but most gentlest people that I know, and so generous in everything he's done. He's been doing this work for many, many years, and I don't know if he'd call it work or just life. Been living his life that has been relegated to him. And when I think of Kevin Fong, I think of his mama, that I was very privileged to meet and to know, and his dad as well, that still carries that wisdom. We can talk about the fish that he caught recently, and that I saw. They sent me a little video of him catching a fish, and it was like, yeah, of course I catch a fish. He had that sense of knowing how to enjoy himself and be in one with nature that way. And I think of G, and his partner and in life that walks with him and learn together, and his children as well as boys, and as a father, as an uncle, as a grandfather, as an elder and a wise person to many. But to me, he's somebody that I love. And so really grateful for you, Kevin, for being on. I know you came on again once before, but we're going to carry it on to another level today and talk about some things that I think are important to many, many people, but also talk about another element of your contribution. You've released a book recently called The 5 Elements, and I believe that's a wonderful contribution to the world, especially where we're at today. So let me welcome you and invite you to welcome the folks here in the way that you do. Thank you, brother, for being on today.
Mahalo nui, Maestro, and to Maestra, and to your family who love and support you and let you share you with all of us and to manifest your gifts and show us the way. So I appreciate you very much. Aloha mai kako. My name is Kevin Kahakula Akea John Fong. You can call me Kevin. Keep it simple. I bring you greetings from the land of the Ramaitu Shaloni people, my home, otherwise known as the Mission District, San Francisco. I'm right off of the 24th Street corridor. So y'all know Mission District. I'm in the hood. And so you may hear some big old hot rod, lowrider cars coming by in the distance. Just count that rumbling as part of my spice and flavor bringing to you from San Francisco. My names, we always start with introducing yourself by your name. So my Hawaiian name is Kahakula Akea, and it means the weaver or the guardian of the sacred fire. And so I am called to hold traditions, stories, recipes, dances and chants, photographs, sacred ceremonies, if you will, from my ancestors. And that is embedded in my name. Therefore, it is my responsibility. On my Chinese side, my Chinese name is Shi Tang. Shi means scholar or one who studies, and Tang means soup. So I'm the scholar of soup, which is a kind of an interesting Chinese name, not the most edifying, but it's one that fits me. I'm the child of Bob and Mary, as Maestro alluded to. I'm the spouse of Greg, or G as he's affectionately known to everybody. I'm the parent of Raphael and Santiago. And I'm the student of esteemed elders, Grace Lee Boggs, Auntie Puanani Burgess, Mama Lila Cavill, Kumu Robert Casimiro, Tessie Guillermo, Dolores Huerta, Miss Jacqueline Martin, Catherine Metz, John Powell, Rosie Abraham, Joe Weston, and of course yours truly, Jerry Tello. My elders have named me as a cultural translator and community healing practitioner. So when people say, what do you do, Kevin? I usually answer with that. I'm the cultural translator and community healing practitioner. And in the kind of government world or whatever legit thing that I need to say, I'm the founder and the principal of the Kahakule Institute, which is really a group of us facilitators who are dedicated to weaving purpose and possibility to create and cultivate communities of belonging. As for my gift, I am unapologetic and unashamed to bring ceremony wherever I am. So if you run into me, we're going to be doing ceremony, and it'll be good.
Thank you, Kevin. Many people don't recognize the many dimensions of that journey. And as you walk through life and lived your experiences, as many people are facing now, we go through certain things and we almost think, wow, how can it be so bad? How can it be so tough? How can it be, what's going on with this world? I was in a conversation with somebody who says, do I want to bring children to the world because, look at how it is, and how did it get so bad, And for those of us that have been on this road a long time, we've seen other times, and our ancestors went through some really interesting times as well. They've struggled many things that are similar and different, and but we recognize that we live in circles and cycles, and this world brings us sometimes some very interesting challenges that makes us go a little bit deeper, makes us kind of wonder, can we get through this? And even those of us that do this and have done this for a long time, we get stuck, and we need others, And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because you're one of those others that when I get stuck, I just want to have a conversation. I just want to be in your presence, because through your ancestors and through your medicine, through your teachings, you always bring something forward that helps open the path for me, helps me see it a little different way, helps lighten the load a little bit. And so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your reflections of this time and your experiences throughout that help you to, kind of put what we're going through in place.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Maestro. And, I just want to preface this by saying that I am one of those rascals, one of those misfits, one of those in-betweeners in society. I walk the line between gender, male and female, as I identify and express myself out in the world. I am gay, but I'm also a parent. I, am the grandchild of immigrants and really steeped in a culture that is not what we would call your standard American culture, although I am most definitely an American and present myself that way. And, I'm a short kind of sissy kid from Sacramento, and I'm making my way through the world. And my mentor, Grace Lee Boggs, always asks this question: what time is it on the clock of the world, and what are you doing to make a difference for good? And so I was reflecting on this notion of what time is it on the clock of our world? And I'm looking at today and what's going on. And I just went back, Maestro, 100 years ago, the United States of America in 1925. And you know what I saw? I saw the same thing going on. There was political turmoil. There was a rise of authoritarianism. They were just coming out of the heels of a pandemic. Folks are rounding up and deporting immigrants, right? Technological advances, the car, mass-produced cars, aviation was just coming up, and mass communication vis-a-vis radio, medical advances going on. And we had an inept, scandal-ridden president at the time, And so I'm just thinking, like, going back 100 years, we are in that same place in 2025. Check, 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 check. And the question is, what happened in the intervening 10 years from 1925 to 1935-40? We had a Great Depression, we had a World War, and we had more authoritarianism, division, and derision. And so here we are right at that precipice of 2025. And my question to y'all is, are we going to choose the same path or are we going to choose another path? And I think it's up to us misfits, rascals, those in-betweeners, to say, here's another path. Here's a different path we can take. And we just got to gather up as many people who want to take our hands and walk with us down that path. I want to spend some time talking about what that other path is and what we can do to gather our peeps and gather our non-peeps, right? It's going to take every sentient being on this planet to choose this path and turn the direction of this planet around.
Yeah. As you share, it causes me to reflect back on, me growing up and not really understanding, the challenges that my parents had and my grandparents had at the time. Because you mentioned immigrants, my grandparents were immigrants too and only spoke their native language. And so for them, it was very hard. And I saw and I witnessed the shame when people would call out their names in derogatory ways. And I saw the fear of them maybe being deported or being, mistreated. But in spite of that, and now I understand that my grandma, my little grandma, 4'10" grandma, she had her ways, and her way was, to get up at 4:30 in the morning and begin with prayer. And she always, when the times that I would get up and be going to the bathroom and then go over there and sit by her, and sometimes I'd fall asleep right there where she was praying, she always started with gratitude. And I couldn't understand that. I could not understand. We don't got nothing. All we got is beans. We're living in this funky little house. We live in a neighborhood where we go to school. People don't treat us good. And they see us and, sometimes you need to go back to where you, all that negative stuff and the fear that, and my grandma was starting with gratitude. I'm saying, what are you grateful for, Grandma? You know what? I don't understand. The people yesterday called you a derogatory, racial name. I mean, what, is the, and when they would do that, my grandma said, pues ellos no entienden. They don't understand. Well, what don't they understand? What I understand is I want to kick their ass because they're talking bad about my grandma. And my no, déjalos. Leave them alone. And she said, que todo se paga. Everything pays in the end, in which, the other grandma that was real important, Miss Mosley, she would say it different. She said, "Baby, what goes around comes around," right?
Comes around,
and I'm saying, shit, I don't want to wait for it to come around. I want to take care of it now, and I think that's one of the struggles is, we want to take care of it now. We want it to fix now. And sometimes it's going to take time, and we got to go through some stuff because there's some lessons that are here to be had, And I know that, that you mentioned ceremony, that, if we're with you, we're in ceremony. And I know that there's teachings that you have and things that have got you through some tough times. I know that you worked, during the time in which there was an AIDS epidemic and you lost a lot of close people to you. A tough time and losing people and afraid of losing people. And you've continued to do work. And I know you personally, have been challenged in many, many ways, but yet you always come with that prayer and that gratitude and the positive. So I wonder if you can share with us a little bit what's underneath that, what's cultivated that, how you see this world that allows you to approach that in a certain way that doesn't pull you down.
Yeah. Maestro, you talked about, your grandmothers and both blood and chosen, right?
Yeah.
Because I know Miss Mosley was a chosen grandmother. And it is going back to the call it what you will, the yin energy, the feminine energy, all of that. Because I'm going back to my mom and I'm going back to her mother. So my mother and her mother, my grandmother, who were clearly the CEOs of our family. There was no question about who was in charge. And I think about this, and in my culture and across virtually all cultures that I'm aware of, when people gather in ceremony, the formation is a circle, right? It is a circle. We're not it's not people sitting in rows like a classroom and we're lecturing at you, right? Or we're leading the charge of the general or whoever up front, and their foot soldiers are up front, the general's in the back, nice and safe. We're in a circle. And I remember when you said your grandmother wakes up with gratitude, I grew up in a grocery store family. That was their work. That's what we did. So the good thing about that was we always had food on the table. We never were lacking for food, but it was always the scrap food that we were eating. Like Uncle Al would be the butcher. So he just threw all the scrap food, which is like pork belly now and oxtail, all the good stuff, right? That's really expensive now. But that was in the junk box. And grandma would grab that box and all the produce that wasn't going to be saleable. And she would make that most beautiful meals, right? And when we all sat at a round table, and when she put those dishes down in the center, that was it. She established love, authority, and her sense of who she was from the center. And so grandma, yes, gratitude. She also woke up every single day with a sense of wonder. So your grandma was praying. My grandma was making soup. She made soup for her family every single day. And, I grew up in Sacramento where in July, it's 104 degrees outside and grandma's making soup, right? She called every 4 o'clock, come pick up your soup. And like, grandma, it's 104 degrees outside. Just come pick up your damn soup. It's good for you, right? And what she would do is she would wake up every day and walk outside. This was at 15th and V, so right in the middle of Sacramento, right? And she would stand on that concrete pad under the tree and read the weather. So from the center of her universe, what is the world saying? What time is it on the clock of her world? And if it was going to be a hot day, 104 degrees, right? She said, ooh, a lot of fire today. It's going to be a scorcher, too much fire. So the soup I'm going to make for my family will be a water-based soup because the water elements need to cool down the fire that's in the air. So grandma would make seaweed and tofu soup or watercress soup. All of the ingredients would have water elements in them. So even though you're drinking a soup that's piping hot, the water energy of the watercress and the seaweed would cool you down like magic. It was incredible. Or if it was a cold winter day like January and the winds were coming off the Sacramento River and cutting you through like knives, right? Just that wind was fierce. She would say, oh, too much metal. The knives are out. Yeah. And so she was going to make an earth-based soup because earth absorbs metal. So she would make oxtail and turnip soup with carrots and all kinds of good stuff, right? Star anise, things that are very earthy and grounded, and that would absorb. And so her notion of leading from the center, using the powers of nature and the laws of nature to inform how she was going to bring medicine to her family was ceremony. Her soup was ceremony. And she named me Soup, right? I had no idea. I was 32 years old. I was so mad at her for naming me Soup. And then at 32 years old, it hit me, So you come over, I will make you a good bowl of soup. I can do that. But I also bring soup in ceremony and saying, what does this group need right now? And what can I do to make sure that I bring balance, medicine, to ease their bodies from the knives that are cutting them through or the fire that's burning them? What can we do? So short answer, long answer, it's drawing from my maternal ancestors.
Right.
And bringing that forward and saying to this very patriarchal society, this is the other path we got to go in.
Right.
Here we go, right? Got to bring that through. And I think that's what's going to heal ourselves, heal our communities and families and schools, and heal the world.
Yeah. That's really profound, Kevin, for me, because I was very struck by watching and seeing all this rich male energy that has been invited to kind of guide what's going to go on in the world, what's going to go on in this, and I'm saying, so where's the feminine? And where's the spirit? And where's the spirituality? And what you speak to is that sense of balance that is needed. And you speak to the sense of us feeding each other, reminding each other, the sacredness. Because right now, we're in the midst of a lot of people being demonized, a lot of people, being disrespected, being made to feel they're not wanted, they don't belong. We're going to take you out. We're going to deport you. We're going to, and in a lot of different ways, we're going to, invalidate you, And so what you're talking about that your grandma did is bring people together around a soup and say, let me feed you. Let me nurture you. Let me love you. Let me see you. Let me welcome you so that your essence, the essence of what you need, can be validated. And I think, we're going to be called to action to do that. First among ourselves. And then, in reminding people in ceremony, through stories, through reflections, through prayer, in many ways, so that we don't lose ourselves. We don't lose who we really are to the anger, to the hate, to the retaliation that many of us feel right now, to the fear. Because, one of the things that I've learned is that, fear is a major tactic that an enemy can use. And once they pierce you with that, once they pierce you with the fear, and that toxin gets in you, then they can control you and win you, And I know, you made reference to the water, you made reference to the earth, you made reference to different elements. Well, I know that that's part of your medicine and part of what you've brought forward and have taken the challenge. I know this wasn't easy. It's not easy to take ceremony and to take, teachings and to take medicine and then translate that into writing, translate it into a format. But, I really want to acknowledge you for taking that on and writing this into your newest book, The 5 Elements. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that, in the midst of what you think we're really facing today.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that. I just, us witnessing this rash of executive orders that we're talking in mid-January, and the inauguration was earlier this week for context, and immediately the stack of executive orders, and every single one, Maestro, was about breaking us apart, dividing us, demonizing certain groups, etc. And whether they actually have teeth or not, right? We don't know what's going to actually come of it, and we hope that not a lot will. But the ceremony behind that, right, was we are going to divide you. And what I'm seeing now happen in our communities is anxiety is rising, right? Both in our individual bodies and in our communities. Fear is rising, and we're starting to take it out on each other.
Yeah.
I've been noticing G is principaling. He was at Everett Middle School today in the Mission District, San Francisco. And the kids, the anxiety is so high, off the charts. And they probably don't really understand what's going on, but they know something's going on, right? And they're starting to take it out on each other. And so we got to mind that and watch that and see, okay, where are the remedies that we can do locally, right here, every single day to feed each other. And that's, there's stuff that we can do every day right now and not wait for the next leader. My grandmother didn't wait for no leader to come or somebody bring home groceries. She picked up the scraps, and made a delicious meal. So this is how we're going to do it. And I think that's what we have to do. Not wait for the resources to come, but see what we got, right? Throw it in a pot, put in some fire and water, stir it up, and we'll find ways to feed each other and have leftovers to take home to our families. So we'll make it work. Our ancestors made it work. We'll make it work. In terms of how did I take the story of soup and what my grandmother brought forth, and mind you, Maestro, she never sat me down and said, hey, I'm going to teach you all about this, right? She never said anything, and I had to figure it out myself in many ways. And so I went to college and really started to learn what was grandma doing there, right? And so I fast forward, I was about 7 years old. I was watching her make soup. Fast forward 20 years, I'm in my late 20s, graduated from college. And as you said, it was the height of the AIDS epidemic here in the Bay Area. And people were dying like every single day. Young people were dying every single day. And I was running a clinic. I had no idea what I was going to be walking into every single day. And so patients would come to the clinic and we'd have, in addition to the kind of Western trained medical doctors, they'd be seeing traditional Chinese medical practitioners who would really look at us as, a human as a system and noticing, okay, there's too much wood. So we're going to balance it out with these herbs, these meditations, this diet, etc. And I was watching that happen. And then I turned to my staff who were completely beleaguered, just wiped out by this and emotionally drained. And I thought, I wonder if I could take this 5-element system and apply it to a group of people. So I started to do that with my team. And by standing in the center and having them stand in a circle and talk about, what's going on for them, how is that showing up? And I can use my knowledge of the 5 elements to say, they're manifesting an imbalance of fire and metal. So I need to add earth. Or there is something going on between wood and earth, so I need to add fire. And I would use that through words or through different, I brought you some hot and sour soup, right? Or we do a different formation. Instead of sitting in a circle, let's do a quick standing meeting and have it be really structured. And so over the course of the last 25 or so years, I've brought the 5 elements or used the 5 elements as a framework for me, as an organizing tool, as a leadership tool, as an organizational tool. And I just put that all in a book with the blessing and permission of my teachers, because they were saying, wow, brother, you're taking this in a completely different direction. And we love it. You got to bring it to the 21st century. You got to make it relevant for your people. And this is how I did it. And so, I was talking to a student, one of my students earlier today, and the calculations. So Jerry, I can take your birthday and calculate your 5 elements, right? Which I've done. It used to take me about 7 minutes because I had to put it through these series of mathematical formulas that I did by hand. It was like long division, for those of you who remember long division. Now we've created an app. I haven't created an app, but I found someone, Nathan Martell, who created an app. You can go to our website and calculate your elements in about 4 seconds. And so, you make technology work for you, right? But I'm taking an ancient set of formulas that's 4,500 years old and bringing it to the present. And I have to say, my teachers and I believe my ancestors are really celebrating the fact that this medicine is helping people in the 21st century. There's some relevance there. So let's bring it, right?
Can you talk a little bit, just we mentioned 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? And tell me a little about each of those elements, because I think I'm not sure if everybody is aware of what they mean.
And y'all can go to my website, my5elements.life, and it's the number 5 elements.life. And There's some videos on there that'll explain it. But real quickly, in the East Asian system, there are 5 elements. They are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. Water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And I know other systems and cultures and traditions have 4 elements. We have the addition of metal typically. And so that's one thing. Also, people ask, where is air? Because our tradition, our system has air. And East Asians honor air as well. But we're so pragmatic, Jerry. Like, you cannot see the air unless it's blowing through the trees, right? And so everything, when I talk about air, all the characteristics like wind, thunder, etc., that's embedded in the element of wood. So that's why you don't see air. Okay. That's principle 1. Got 5 elements. Principle 2, the elements work in 2 distinct formations or cycles. The first formation works in a circle. So if you go to the website, you'll see the elements in a circle. And it starts with water. Let's say water is at 7 o'clock and it feeds wood at 9 o'clock. So water feeds wood. That makes sense, right? Wood fuels fire. So you go to 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, wood fueling fire. Fire, out of fire comes ash or earth. So go from 12 o'clock fire to earth, which is at 3 o'clock, right? Fire comes ash or earth. And then earth produces minerals or metal. So we go from earth at 3 o'clock to metal at 5 o'clock. And then finally, metal condenses to form water. So 5 to 7 o'clock. I can't explain it scientifically, but if you put a stainless steel bowl in the freezer, you get condensation or frost the next day. Right. So there's some copacetic relationship between metal and water. Just take me on my word, right? The other formation is a star formation within that, starting with water. Water controls fire. Fire melts or tempers metal. Metal chops wood. Wood depletes the nutrients from the earth, and then earth contains or channels water. You dig an irrigation ditch and then you've got a channel of water. So my grandmother knew these 2 formations, right? She knew the elements and the formations. She did not have a day of formal education in her life, but she knew when she walked outside every morning and read the weather with wonder, if it's going to be too much fire, I'm going to take the restraining cycle, make a water-based soup. The water will cool down the fire and my family will be better, right? Or if there's too much metal, the wind's coming off the river like knives, I'm going to make an earth-based soup because earth supports metal and the earth properties will absorb the metal of water. I can share, if you're interested, kind of how that plays out in an organization or a town hall that I facilitated with a friend of mine. But we'll just stop there. Those are the principles of the elements.
Yeah, and what it really points to and what it kind of brings up for me and in my traditional teachings is a sense of balance.
Yes.
That we're always looking for balance. And when you're, you got too much fire on, you need that balance, and I think about kids today who have a lot of anxiety. The anxiety is just firing this, way up, and how part of our way of bringing them down is, having them recognize the tangible things around them, because anxiety will make them feel like everything's present and I'm in danger, something's wrong, and terrible things are going to happen. No, hold on, you're right here. Let's listen to me, listen to your voice. We're sitting on a chair. And take a deep breath. And so the element of the balance between the extremes, allows us then to maintain a sense of balance, but maintain a sense of who we are. So we don't get lost in what the world or your environment or whatever's going on in your life is manifesting in you. And I mention that right now because I think you mentioned anxiety that is very, very high in a lot of people, and fear that is very, very high in a lot of people. Tell me, how do you interpret that from the 5 elements, and what is really needed? What do we need to balance that in our lives?
That's a great question, and I've been thinking about that with my students a lot lately, and you hit it. That third principle is actually balance. There is no judgment or hierarchy in the elements. There's not a good or bad person or chart or a situation. We just got to go in and see what elements are there, what elements are missing, and how do we bring in the elements to balance that. So what you were alluding to, Maestro, is the abundance or overabundance of metal. I mean, you think about what happened. Let's take kids, for instance, right? When I was growing up, I didn't have no play dates. I didn't have all that stuff, right? And then somewhere around the 80s, fear came in. there was this whole notion of people going to take your kids, and so you shouldn't let them go out and play in the streets, right?
Yeah.
Don't trust this and that. And there was some, like, it was founded, but it was also like, there were bad people taking kids all the time. And so it became a campaign. And therefore, then the play dates came around, and the soccer clubs came around, and all that stuff came around. And it was an abundance of structure or metal. Helicopter parents, that whole term came about.
Yeah.
And so when you have an abundance of metal, and think about how we're structuring our lives. Like, my parents worked hard, but they didn't work hard like we work hard, like 24 hours, right? You're getting emails and texts and pings at 11:30, and people can't turn it off. You're not supposed to turn it off. So again, we're experiencing that abundance of metal. And you think about metal, the element that comes before metal is earth, and the element that comes after metal is water. And so there you'll find the medicine. So we think about earth. How many times do our kids do ourselves? I find myself, I'm sitting here all day long talking to this metallic thing called a laptop, using a mic and all that stuff. How many times do I go out and actually put my feet to the ground?
Yeah.
Or do I touch dirt, right?
Yeah.
Do I have connection with the earth? How many times do I have a meaningful conversation with somebody and not talk about work? Do I reconnect with community? Do I take the time? It's 2:30. I haven't eaten yet. I haven't fortified myself. That is what earth does. It's about cultivating, nurturing the elements of the earth to make you feel whole. Talk about community, harmony, gardening, right? Touching plants, getting some sunlight. And then you go to water, which Maestro, you alluded to. Take a breath, grab a drink of water, just turn everything off and just sit and meditate and be quiet. Look at the wall, right? Wash your face, take a shower. Whatever it is. For me, you talked about me swimming. When I get in the water, everything goes away.
Yeah.
Right? When I go swim, I just forget everything. And then I walk out of that pool or the ocean, and I'm refreshed like you can't imagine, right? Nothing else does better for me. And so how do we, and I think everybody can allude to that, we've got too much structure, too much metal in our lives. What can the elements do? Let's turn to earth and look toward water. And that's where we'll find our medicine and our solutions.
Yeah, I remember those times in which I was really afraid as a kid. My grandma would get the medicine, the Vicks, and she'd rub it on me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, sometimes, Grandma, I don't want the Vicks. I just calm down, and she would hold me, and she would rub the Vicks on me. I could feel her energy. I could feel her breath. And then she would say, Mijo, va a estar bien. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Don't worry. You're right here with me. And what I didn't understand that she was doing, first of all, the connection with her, right? And you mentioned that of relationships. When we become afraid and we become anxious, we become disconnected. And what we become connected to are the fear and the anxiety, the things that people are putting out there on the airwaves, are putting out there in the news flashes, are putting out there. And if you watch the news, then after a while, the vibration of what they're saying is penetrating you.
Yeah,
right?
It gets in you, and it lives there. Yeah.
And it stays there. And so what I also begin to understand is that Vicks, had eucalyptus in it.
Yeah.
And eucalyptus is a wonderful element to allow us to breathe, but it really grounds you as well. And in that, every time I smell that today, she doesn't need to rub it on me. She's not here to rub it on me. But if I just smell that, my body goes back to that place of comfort. And so I think that, what you're mentioning and what I want to lift up is for the listeners, right now is a really important time for us to reflect on and think, what grounds us? What nurtures us? What is it that reconnects us? And we have to double down on that. We really have to make sure we're taking those breaks and going and touching the earth. Those soups that are really important, we really need to intentionally have those soups. We really need to connect with those folks, not that are going to dialogue about the politics and everything that's going on, but those people that bring you a sense of calm and bring you a sense of security and of being connected. And I think that, that's what you're speaking to. How do we find the balance? Because there's different people. Some people do carry metal energy, and some carry more wood energy, and some carry more water energy. We even have to know who we interact with to balance out, So I think that what you're speaking to, is really calling out to us to really reinforce those things that ground us, those things that keep us flowing, and those things that can help us nurture and stay connected to one another.
Thank you, Maestro. You talked about, even just the smell of the Vicks, right?
Yeah.
Takes you back 70 years. And there you are. Martha Graham writes in her autobiography this notion of blood memory and how that memory has seeped into your blood, right? Mm-hmm. And so we go back to that. For me, it's that taste of any type of soup, miso soup or watercress soup, just a spoonful. And then it hits every cell of my body. And it lights it up. And you participated in this, and anybody's interested can ask me email me and ask me. I do a ceremony called warming hands, where you rub your hands together, just like you're rubbing two sticks, and then you put one hand on your heart, the other in your belly. Take 3 breaths. That's all you have to do. I remember talking to a college student I was working with. I was leading a circle of college students during pandemic, and she was by nature an anxious person. She brought a lot of wood energy into her. She, very creative, visionary, innovative, and was unable to kind of focus and land a job, right? And so I taught her warming hands, and she had a job interview, and I said, "Hey, how'd it go?" And she said, "Kevin, what I did, I was really nervous about this job interview. It was by Zoom and stuff. And so I just did warming hands just before I turned on my camera, warmed my hands up for 5 seconds, put my hand on my heart, my belly. I just breathed for a couple of seconds and just calmed down. And you know what? I nailed that interview, right? And so sometimes it was just that heat and that sense of calm, the water energy and the fire energy, which embraced her wood nature. And she was still herself, right? She still brought her like enthusiastic, brilliant, visionary self, but it was anchored in a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And then she was able to articulate that vision to bring the fire in a way that people would understand. And it was just, she said, it was that, if I didn't do that warming hands, it wouldn't happen. So people get scared of the word ceremony. Like I have to go off the woods and sit there for 3 days or, and all of that is well and good. And we can do ceremony in 30 seconds.
Yes.
You just develop those practices and expand your repertoire of what ceremony means and looks like. And then surround yourself with people like my friend Maggie. And she has this lovely accent. I can't, but every time I talk to Maggie, she's like, "How's your heart, my darling?" And, we work together and this and that. But when Maggie says, "How's your heart, my darling?" she takes me to a different place, right? That's the medicine she's bringing. She doesn't care what my deliverables were or what, what I accomplished. How's your heart, my darling?
Yeah.
And whenever I say that to myself, I'm saying that to me right now. And even if I never speak to Maggie again, and Maggie, I will speak to you again, just to have that blood memory in my ear of hearing her say that, it resets me and anchors me in a sense of, this is who I am. And I need to be unapologetic of that. So, yeah.
As you're speaking, when you're talking about that, I kind of flashed to a situation because right now I'm vacillating between a lot of different feelings, and one of them is anger. I get upset by some of the things that are going on, and how hateful it seems like people are being, and these politicians that you said want to divide us and want to demonize. And it just upsets me sometimes. And I remember as a little kid, went to school, and these 2 older boys, I think it was in 2nd grade or something like that, these 2 older 5th or 6th grade boys, began calling me racial names, and call my mother, these racial names, and it just upset me so much. But I was a little boy. I was only 2nd grade, man. These boys are big, and what am I going to do? And I felt like just want to kick their ass, but they were big, and we used to live across from the school. And I remember that I went home, and my mother was home, and I walked in the house, and I already had a plan. I'm going to go in the bedroom. We had our bats, because we had baseball, and I had a bat there. And I said, I'm going to get this bat and hit these kids and, kick their ass. And I walked in the house. And I said, Mom, I'm home. Okay, mijo. And I went to the bedroom to get the bat. And as I walked out, I said, I'm going to go back to school. And my mom says, ¿Qué tienes? What's the matter? Nothing. I'm going to go back to school. Espérate, wait a minute. And she came out of the kitchen. She says, what's the matter? ¿Qué pasó? What happened? Nothing. What happened? Nothing. I mean, my mom knew. My mom knew that hurt and that anger was drawing me out of who I really was, who she taught me to be, how she taught me to be. And she said, what happened? Nothing. I'm going to go play baseball. What are you going to do? But Mom, I was there at school and these boys call me and ugly names and they call you ugly names too. And I'm going to go over there and show them they can't call me now. I'm going to get them with this bat. Give me that bat before I use it on you. And my mom, and she says, come here. What? Come in the kitchen. And she gave me a warm tortilla with butter, right? She says, here, eat this. But Mom, I says, mijo, don't worry. It's okay. Todo se paga. Everything's going to pay. They're going to get theirs. You don't have to do it. Don't forget who you are. No somos así. We're not like that. And what my mom reminded me of is the true essence of who I am. I'm not really an angry man. I don't really want to hurt people. But shit, when people try and hurt my people or people that I care for, that comes out. And my big fear, Kevin, is that it's going to come out more, and we're going to use it on each other. As you said, we're going to fight amongst each other. We're going to, criticize each other, And I think that what my mom did in that tortilla with butter is she grounded me. She reminded me of who I was. And don't forget who you are. The end of the story is I didn't go back. I stayed there, and if not, my mom would have whipped my butt.
You had that tortilla, and it was good.
That's right. and my mom would have whipped my butt if I would have. So. But about 2 weeks later, I went to school, and one of the boys, the one that was talking the loudest, he had a cast on his arm.
Oh.
And I'm saying, dude, my mom was right. Everything paid and he got it. He broke his arm. And I remember going home and I walked in. Mom, remember that boy? I told you that he called me names. Look at, you're right. It got him back. He's got a broken arm. Look at that. Look at what happened. I'm so happy. She says, you don't be happy when people get hurt. And I'm saying, oh, shit, I don't got the lesson yet. But what it brings to mind is not to forget who we are.
Yeah. Very true. I'm reflecting on that. Just yesterday, I was feeling that fire because I facilitated a meeting of nonprofit executive directors here in the Bay Area. And so they came into this meeting on fire, Maestro. Tempers were flaring. People were like nervous. And there was kind of a good tension in that regard because they were allied. But it's like, let's go out and, let's do this. And it was very aggressive. And I knew I had to run this meeting. And if I stoked the fire,
right,
and people were also expressing fear because it's like, well, I, in my organization who advocate on behalf of people who are unhoused or trans people or kids or whatever, I'm ready to step out, but I don't know if I should step out because I might get my head chopped off. Mm-hmm. And it ain't going to be good for me or my family or my organization and community, right? So with this notion of how much fire, not enough fire, etc. Mm-hmm. And I use the language of water to calm them down. So this is what I said, Maestro. Pay attention to my language. Hey, everybody, really glad you're here. Appreciate the passion and energy in the room. Let's keep the fire burning. However, I just want to take 20 minutes or so and make sure that we are anchored in common mission and purpose. Let's do a deep dive in the data and hear what the community is saying. So we make sure that what we're talking about is aligned with the community needs. Then I'm going to give you a few minutes just to reflect in pairs or by yourself, just to reflect on that data. And then the rest of our time will be spent, and this is my job, is to hear your ideas and hear your thoughts. And I'll sequence them in a way that flows well together so we can walk out with something solid. Yeah. So just by using the language, right? You heard it, anchor,
right?
Deep dive, reflect, flow, that language of water, they calmed down, and we were able to have a good, productive conversation. And so thinking about that anger and knowing it may not always be water. Sometimes we might need metal.
Yeah.
And we got language around that. Let's put the pedal to the metal or nose to the grindstone, right? Or fire. Let's shed some light on this topic before we do this. But to really understand and trust your gut, take your grandmother's wisdom, whoever your grandmother is, and take that and play that through. Because I know I got the 5 elements in my corner from my cultural heritage. You got something similar from your cultural heritage, right?
Yes.
My student, Tiffany, who is, her parents are from Liberia, is bringing the Arusha tradition and combining that with the 5 elements from the East Asian tradition and saying, like, how can I add extra columns and say, this is from my tradition, and we blend that together. So, it's not just my magic. I mean, I have a book, read the book, use that as a starting point, but also dive deep into your grandmother's wisdom and bring that forward. Because there's going to be magic and medicine in that. And that's what we need to make sure that we choose a different path in 2025 versus what our ancestors chose or was chosen for them in 1925. All right.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think about that, as you're talking about that and soup, because sometimes we create soup, from different traditions, and it nurtures us in a beautiful way. Because we come from different ways and different traditions, and people, we have to be open to all the medicine, all the medicine and all the traditions that come. And, and I want to be real clear that as we move forward, we do need the fire. We do need the advocacy. We do need the social justice movement. But
we need all the elements in play.
We need all the elements, but we need to find balance within that so that it doesn't draw harm to our relationships, to our connections, to our mission and to our purpose. As someone that has walked this road for a long time, and and I consider you an elder and a wisdom keeper, I wonder if you could leave us just your own personal reflection and advice of anyone out there listening going forward. What would you offer them that might be beneficial as we move through this?
Yeah. Thank you, Maestro. A couple things. One is wherever I go, and I'm in schools, I'm in community organizations, I'm in like these corporate settings and business settings. I always ask these 2 questions because my work centers on this. What can I do to support you in being leaders who look toward this other path, who look toward weaving, who look toward bringing out the best in people, to look to bringing out the best in themselves, right? And how can we create the conditions in our families, our communities, our schools, our workplaces, where everybody can manifest their gifts and thrive? And so my question to you all is, what is your unique gift? What is, as we say in Hawaiian, what is your kuleana? Ku means to stand, ana means in space. How do you stand in space, and what do you bring? I, Kevin, bring ceremony. Yeah. Maestro Jerry brings something else. Mama Carol will bring something else, right? Layla will bring something else. And all together, if we bring that in, we can take those gifts, stir it up with some water and fire, and make a beautiful soup. So that's point 1. Point 2 is, I would say, go to my5elements.life website and calculate your elements, your profile. See what comes up. I just did somebody in there, fire and metal, right? So that's what they bring in. And we got to just bring in earth to balance that out. I just happen to bring in all earth. So what does that look and feel like? And you can kind of dive into the website or the book for some solutions or answers, but also just drop me a line and say, Kevin, this is what came up. What do you suggest? And if you know yourself through this system, then we can find ways or other ways in which you can get balance for yourself. And if you get balance for yourself, it's going to balance out other people, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. And I really want to encourage people to go to Kevin's website and those of you that are part of organizations or part of efforts, it would be a privilege, I think, and a blessing to you to invite Kevin in to come speak and share and offer those wisdoms and help guide, because we need those kind of guides and leaders right now. We're going to need the balance to what's being presented, because we need the healing and we really need the grounding, but we also need to remind ourselves of who we really are. We are a people in this country of immigrants, of people of all ways and all traditions, and in community, we can love each other, we can respect each other, and we can support each other. That's who we really are. And so let us not forget who we really are and what we are as people and what our ancestors wanted us to be. And when we come together, as Kevin says, in circle in that ceremony, then the ancestors will line up behind us. It's not just us. We have ancestors that are lining up behind us, and you will be surprised. We're going to be surprised that it's not going to be hard, but you're going to be surprised at the blessings that are going to come through as long as we can stay in alignment with that. So I want to thank you, Kevin, so much for all that you do for so many people, your ancestors, your parents, everybody in your life, the other teachers, but for just being such a wonderful, friend and colleague, and just for all the blessings that you give to the world. Thank you so much, very much, Kevin.
It's an honor and pleasure. Thank you, Maestro.
As we finish today, I just want to give gratitude. We mentioned grandmothers a lot, but there's also grandfathers out there, right? And we must be those grandmothers and grandfathers right now that bring that sense of hope, that bring that sense of healing, that bring that sense of vision, and that remind us of who we really are. But you will find yourself in places where you need to bring the nurturance, bring the soup, bring the medicine, bring the healing, bring the songs, bring the laughter, bring the joy, the dance, the flavor, whatever that is, in order to ground people, in order to embrace them, in order to help them through these difficult times. And so I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen, but let's now share the soup. Let's share the medicine. Let's share the teaching so that the world can be a better place for all of us, and we can walk forward in a sense of peace and harmony among one another. Thank you very, very much, and many blessings to you.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.